Hello, Sales Beast listeners. We're here today with Dylan Suitor. He's a revered leader in our community and now the regional ambassador of KWYP Canada. I'd love to hear from him and his journey. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you started with KWYP?
All right. So it was about a year and a half ago now. It was August of 2018 that I had the opportunity come up to take on KWYP. I was provided with that opportunity because I was seen as someone who was very passionate about growing others and giving back to our young professionals community. And I wasn't really sure what to expect. It was fairly new in Canada. And so I made it my goal when I went to Mega Camp, which is an event that Keller Williams has down in Austin, to interview a couple of the top YP professionals. And so I met with a couple of the top chapter professionals and I felt like I was at home. So I went to a mixer, and the minute I got there, they really made me feel like that was the group I needed to be a part of. There was no judgment. They were very friendly. Everyone was all about kind of adding value and pouring back into us. And I knew when I was there that I needed to bring this back to Canada and provide this opportunity to our young professional community in Canada. And that's kind of where it started. So as soon as I got back, I started going around to the few chapter members that we had and read the operations manual thoroughly to make sure that I was going to launch a chapter properly, and started adding committee chairs and our core group, our 4-core group, which is the president, vice president, director of finance, and director of operations, an integral part of growing the chapter. Went around and spoke with everyone, and then we launched a chapter, and here we are a little over a year later, and we've been a very successful chapter, made a lot of impact, and we actually just spent last week, as you are well aware, going through what we did this year, what went right, what went wrong, and what we could do better. And it was very eye-opening to realize everything we've done in the last year and a half, to see just the little tasks that chunking away little by little really accomplish. So, yeah.
Can you give us some specifics about what exactly KWYP is and why it should be relevant to our listeners?
Absolutely. So KWYP is Keller Williams Young Professionals. It is our under 40 chapter. We do have 42 or 43 chapters now across Keller Williams. We will be launching Canada across, we'll be like dividing into 4 chapters in the new year. And really the value of KWYP, the mission of KWYP is to develop tomorrow's leaders. So how can we take millennials, how can we take under 40 individuals and work on their business and their personal skills to make sure that they're a better leader and they show up more in our community? There's a quote that John Maxwell shared on a recent podcast that he said, the world needs more leaders, and not just any leaders. It's not about quantity, but it's also about the quality, and the world needs more great leaders. And so what can we do as young professionals, and what can we do as individuals to be great leaders and to give back to our communities, give back to our families, and give back to those who surround us?
Okay. I think the biggest thing I've gotten out of KWYP since you launched it about a year ago is it's just the exposure I've had to some of probably the highest producing agents in the world. Last year, I was in my first year. I did quite well. Didn't really see anyone around me that was transacting at that level that was as new as I was. And then I went to your event, the Grow Summit, and quickly realized that I'm just a very, very small fish. And what I've accomplished is really not that great compared to a lot of the people that you exposed me to at that event. And it was extremely eye-opening. So to me, so far, I would say that was my biggest value.
One thing I'll say on that is, first off, you give yourself a pat on the back too. You've done an incredible job as an agent from when you started to where you are now, and you're developing as a leader, obviously, in MRN as well. And opportunity has opened, right? You came in as a young kid, really, that had no idea what real estate was, with a couple investment properties, then got into being an agent and just focused on your one thing, focused on what do I have to do every single day to be a top producing agent. And then I guess the next thing I'll say is that on stage, I've heard Gary Keller say it multiple times at these large events, is that no one is God's gift to real estate. Everyone's replaceable. Even he is replaceable. At the end of the day, it's a humbling comment, a humbling statement to really bring you back. And that's one thing that I've focused on when going around it. There's always someone that's doing something better than you, and you can learn from them. And as long as we're a lifelong student and we're always learning and we're always surrounding ourselves around people that are bringing us up, as well as providing that same value to those that are new to the industry or new to the world or looking to learn. That's really what a leader is being aware of the fact that you do have areas to improve on and focusing on improving on those areas, and also being aware that there's other people that are following in your footsteps that really appreciate the guidance and the wisdom that you provide to them, and some of the direction that you may be able to give. I mean, there's been multiple times where I've sent one of my team members or potential team member out to spend time with both of you, to shadow you guys, because you guys are excelling in your area, which is really the point of the one thing, is what is the one thing that you can do every day so that everything else seems unnecessary. And you guys are doing a really good job in your individual areas of that. So getting back to the Growth Summit was just an opportunity for us as KWYP in Canada and as a young professional group in Canada to do something that we felt would be able to turn the tables, would be able to change the future for KW Canada. I believe this strongly, and I'm sure you guys would say the same, is that Keller Williams is the best real estate company around. There is no one better. And the education, the training, the technology, the culture, everything about Keller Williams has created the person that I am today. And we'll speak on coaching in a bit, but Keller Williams has made me want to constantly be a lifelong learner. And so providing that value and just sharing that wisdom and that information to as many people as we possibly can, the Growth Summit was the purpose for that. The other side of the Growth Summit was we did that all for charity. There wasn't a dollar of profit taken. All of us put our time in and for free, and we raised over $100,000. And we ended up impacting a number of children. So I believe the number was about 3,600 students or kids got to go through QL because of the impact we made. And we also impacted over 600 people in that audience that now want to take a bigger leadership position, want to grow in KWIP, want to grow in KW, want to grow in their business, want to grow in their personal, wherever area that may be. We were able to inspire and impact over 600 people in that audience, plus the ripple effect carrying through. And that event alone really put Canada on the map. We're now there. People are aware that we're here, and we're coming, and we're growing. And so it was creating awareness around what we have to offer as a company, what we have to offer as an industry, and what we have to offer as leaders.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Dylan. Now, I want to go back to a point that you just said about being a lifelong learner, always continuing to develop yourself. I know one thing that you really focus on heavily is coaching, and you put a lot of time, a lot of money, and you encourage all of the people on your team to do the same. Can you touch on why coaching is so important to you and what it's done for you in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that when I got into Keller Williams, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I came in as an investor, I wasn't going to be an agent, and I quickly realized that there's so much more to Keller Williams than just selling houses. And I started to go down the education courses where I just take everything from Keller Williams, everything they had to offer, all the local courses. I'd travel to our big conventions. I would do all the expansion and the growth related activities, and I'd do all these training and whatnot courses. And I kept hearing a repeating theme was this MAPS coaching opportunity, this coaching. And even going back a little bit further, when I had my painting company, before I got into real estate, I had hit a ceiling, that natural ceiling of achievement. And I was being entrepreneurial as opposed to purposeful. And all I was doing, I was just running and doing whatever I had to do because it came up at that time. So when something was broken, I would address it. I would never plan. I would never create the system around what that would look like in the future. And it became fairly apparent to me pretty quickly that a coach might be the opportunity. So I looked in, I hired my first coach when I was probably 19 or 20. I ended up using a government grant for it, which was awesome. They ended up covering a lot of the cost of that. It was $50,000 or $60,000 for a year. And that coach helped develop me, although it wasn't a specific coach. So then when I got into MAPS coaching, I signed up for MAPS coaching within 6 months of joining Keller Williams and getting into real estate. And I've had a MAPS coach ever since. The first 9 months I spent with one coach that wasn't a great fit. Great person. She's an awesome person, an awesome leader for certain people. I needed someone to hold me a little more accountable. And when I started asking around, people were like, well, then move on, get another one. That's their role, to make sure that you excel. And so I'm now on my fourth MAPS coach, and we've been working together now for about a year, actually. And she's awesome. She's great. She holds me accountable. She knows my personality style. And so, yeah, I pay $1,000 a month US for 30 minutes a week. Every Thursday morning I speak with her. And through all this other education, I mean, I'll specifically cite going to Growth Word Systems Orientation, hosted by Kristen Cole in Toronto a couple of years ago. She has in her book, who are your 5 mentors? Who are those 5 people you spend the most time around? And then it says, who are your 5 dream mentors? And it's really funny that you bring that up, because I actually pulled that book out this morning and went through it with my admin, because there's a 30, 60, 90 for a new agent in there, and a day by day what you should do. And while I was going through it, I looked at the 5 mentors that were in my life, and it was in 2018 on the front of my book, it said that. And then I put my 5 dream mentors. I actually put 7 dream mentors. And it's funny because Sandy was one of them. And I didn't really know Sandy. He was one of the first people I'd spoke to when I got into real estate, when I got into Keller Williams. And so he was doing this investing thing, and I loved investing. I thought the idea of investing was sweet. So then I put him on that list. And looking back at those 7 people that were my dream mentors, all 7 of them have come into my life and have impacted my life in a very strong way. And all 7 of them I have on my phone, except for Robert Kiyosaki. But I'll say that his books were an impact for me. So I would say that kind of realizing that coaching and mentoring, first of all, are 2 different things. Although having multiple coaches and having multiple mentors is also really, really important for your personal development. In the one thing, they speak about the 7 areas of your life, and they have a circle, and there's 7 different pieces of the pie. And your spiritual life, your health and wellness, your relationships, your job, your business, your finance. I mean, those areas are all part that make up your life and who you are. So to have a specific coach on each of those areas that trains you on those areas specifically, I think is very important. And it doesn't have to be a paid coach. It can be an unpaid mentor that believes in you and wants to pour into you and give back.
Of course. No, that's amazing. And I do want to go back one more time and touch on, you said you had your 7 dream mentors then, and you now have them all on your phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so have you come up with 5 new dream mentors?
So that is an exercise that I go through every quarter.
Okay.
And I've been slacking this year. I did not go through it 4th quarter of this year. I actually haven't gone through it the second half of 2019. I've gotten really bogged down with some of my investing stuff and with YP, with the Growth Summit, so I didn't spend the time to do that, although I will be going through that over Christmas again, because I think it's a really important exercise, and it's really provided a lot of insight to where I'm at. In that same book, I actually looked back, and it said, draw your org chart, draw your Disney is what it was, and there was a picture of Disney's kind of vision map, and I looked at that, and I just did it yesterday, where I went to Barrie and met with one of my mentors, Lorraine Jordan, and she's like, where do you want to go? Let's start off with your org chart. So I drew my org chart for what I wanted for 2020, including KWYP, including investments, including market centers, including my team. And I drew this massive org chart. And when I looked at the org chart that I drew in 2018, and I looked at the org chart that I drew yesterday, they were almost identical.
No way.
Yeah, I had there was different names. So it was Dylan Suitor and Associates when I drew it in 2018, and it's Elevation Realty now. So the name had changed, although the structure was fairly similar. There was an investing arm. There was a coaching and author arm. And I've been talking about getting into coaching and becoming a coach and writing a book. And that was one of the arms that was on my vision map in 2018. And it's Gary Keller, and another comment that you hear quite often is you'll underestimate what you can accomplish in 5 years, and you'll overestimate what you can accomplish in 1 year. And so I drew out my 5-year vision map in 2018, and I'm like 90% of the way there. And I've already kind of started the ball down the other areas. So it was really neat to see how vision can turn into reality. And when people start thinking about vision, sometimes they think it's hokey pokey, but if you just write out what your org chart looks like, your vision map looks like, or what your design, where you want to go and where you want to be, that resonates in your brain and stays in your RAS, and you consistently see it. It consistently comes up whether you're thinking about it or not. And that was something that was really, really important, really valuable. And going back to your question on the mentors, that those people that I wrote on that sheet that one time without ever looking at it, because I wrote them down and took a couple minutes to think about them, they kept coming up until they were in my life. So that was a really cool, eye-opening experience.
Yeah, visualization always helps you get to your goals a little bit quicker, and you've obviously accomplished so much for being so young. Can you just tell me about some of the transitional moments in your mindset that you had as you were going through your journey? Maybe as you realized, I'm doing things a certain way, like you talked about your painting company and realizing, hey, we've hit that ceiling. Now we need to get a coach and keep branching out. Do you have any other big transitional moments in your life that you can think of that have impacted who you are today?
I think there's a number of big transitional moments transformational moments that I think that I can kind of look back on. And I think one of the most relevant for this conversation would be creating the 135 last December with Sandy in this office, and creating what that 135, that GPS, that roadmap looked like for us to accomplish our goal at Keller Williams Young Professionals. And for those of you out there listening that don't know what a GPS is, basically it's a roadmap on your one big goal, and then you put 3 priorities that will lead to that goal, and then 5 specific strategies around each priority. And what we had is, if you accomplish one of those 3 priorities, you will accomplish your one goal. And one of those 3 priorities was to have a successful charity event that we donated $100,000 to, which we accomplished with the Growth Summit. And our one big goal was to be at 100 chapter members by the end of the year and win chapter of the year, which I believe you submitted just this past weekend, the chapter of the year submissions, and I think we have a fairly good shot at it. I'm not going to jinx it yet, although...
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, yeah. I think we do have a fairly good shot at it just because what we have developed, what we have created, and it really goes back to that one point where we created that GPS. So really honing in on how important that GPS is. You were with us last week when we created that GPS for the future of KWIP. And creating org charts, not just for 1 year or 3 years or 5 years. One of my coaches, getting back to coaches, my investment coach, Stefan Arnio, he actually made me, the first time I went out and saw him, he gave me a pen, and his wall is a whiteboard, it was a marker, and he put 0 and then he put 100, and he put a line right across it. And he said, all right, now plan out your 100-year plan. And so he made me think 100 years out, which was something I had never thought about or something I never dreamed about. And I'll tell you right now, be totally honest, that's one of the biggest challenges that I've ever had, is thinking 100 years out. It's really, it's fun and it's exciting because 5 years is still not that far away. But when you think of 100 years out and you try and think of what you want to accomplish when you're 80, 90, 100, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And so really creating that vision map for you is a monumental transitional moment for me.
So, I have a question for you. You're probably the biggest thinker, biggest bald-headed thinker, we'll call you, that I've ever met in my life. I met you at Bold's probably 2 years ago now. I always came out, I could tell your experience, and I came up to you and always would ask you questions about what you're doing in your business. But things in your life changed drastically, I would say, in the past year. You went from what I understood is no focus on investing. Sandy and Adrian were the investors in our brokerage, and you come out of nowhere and buy more homes than I can count, and really solidified yourself in our area as the guy when it comes to investment properties. Can you tell people how many homes you bought and how you come to think that big? So I know me personally, I don't think that big.
I guess going back to Anna's last question as well, what was one of those moments? Right after Mega Camp, when I decided to take the jump into KWIP, I read Find Your Why by Simon Sinek on the plane on the way back. There's 81 pages, I found out this morning. That is the Find Your Why for an individual. The rest of the book is for a group. I only read the individual because that's all that was relative at the moment. And I sat down with my TL at the time, Donna Beach, and went through an exercise that I would recommend. I mean, she's open to do it. She charges $300 to someone to do that. And it's the best $300 you'd ever spend. We spent a couple hours in her office and created what my big why was. And it was to inspire others by demonstrating success to think bigger and live their endless potential. So if I'm going to make that my why statement, that I want to inspire others to think big, I definitely have to think big. And so I do want to say I appreciate you stating what you said there. It means a lot. And always stretching the status quo and always surrounding yourselves around individuals that are thinking bigger. That's been one of my best attributes, if I'm to say something, is I always, when I find someone who's doing something incredible or I think is really having a large impact on life, whether that be in personal or business, I want to make sure I'm attached to that person. I bust in, I make sure that I'm close. Lorraine Jordan's a prime example. I met her at family reunion in Vegas. Who was I? At that time, I was on track. That was my first year. I think I did 17 transactions in my first year. She did over 400. Who am I to go up and talk to her and say, I want to spend time with you? Yet, by thinking big and saying, no, I'm going to do this, and pursuing that, it put me in a room, and it turned out it was a 15-minute call every Friday that now turns into, I spent 2 days with her this past week, where we just talk about vision, and we kind of feed off of each other's energy, and I'll say something and she'll challenge it, or she'll say something and I'll challenge it, to constantly be not one-upping each other, but making each other see a different perspective. Sandy does the same thing with me, whereas we talked about that $100,000 we wanted to donate. It was actually $250 total, and we started it off with 10,000. It was supposed to be a 100-person event. We turned this thing into 600 or more people just from a 2-hour conversation about what we were going to donate. And it was kind of stepping up and thinking bigger. Now, addressing your investing side, investing was why I got into real estate. Real estate as an agent was just a distraction, to be totally transparent, and it became a passion because I love it, and I really think that I know that I can impact and influence people in a positive way. So I went down the road of constantly improving myself and focusing on bettering me all the time, and by bettering me and offering more, other people want to be around that, and I'm able to offer more to others. it's tough for you to offer something to someone that you don't already have. And coaches do a really good job of being able to teach something that they haven't accomplished, but they're trained in it, and they're constantly having coaches who have accomplished it instruct them and walk them through that roadmap of what it looks like. So my belief has always been that I need to accomplish something before I can train it, teach it, whatever that may look like. And so getting back to your question on how many properties, well, I'll tell you right now that every property we purchased, we didn't close on this year. And that was very challenging. That was a struggle for me to get around because I had never had a property that got delayed. I never had a project that missed closing. I never had a property that fell apart in the first 3 years of my career, 2.5 years of my career. And then this past year, we had a number of properties actually fall apart. So the number of firm houses that I bought was 82. Our goal was 240. And that started from a big thinker and my business partner, Robbie. He challenged me to, his goal was actually, he didn't challenge me. He told me that his goal was 100 million. And I walked through a GPS, a 135, around what $100 million in real estate would look like, real estate holdings. And at the end of it, I actually looked at him and I said, thanks, man. I really appreciate you taking that time to create my 135 and my one big goal, which is now to own $100 million in real estate. And he was a little frustrated for a minute. And you could tell in the look in his face, he felt like I kind of played him. And then he realized afterwards that if I had 100 million and we were partners on it, that he would have more because he had other properties already. And the initial conversation started by me saying, hey, Robbie, why don't we go for 150 million? And he was like, no, 100 million is the number. It's been the number for 7 years. And at the end of that experience, that exercise, that's the word. By the end of the exercise, Robbie had come to terms with the fact that by helping me accomplish my goal of now of $100 million in real estate holdings, that he would not only have 100 million, he'd have closer to 150 million. And so that was an opportunity to stretch his thinking for him to think bigger. And all you have to do is break it down, chunk it down into day by day, week by week, and what are those little goals that you need to do every single day in order to reach that. And so every single day, I'm going to ask someone, well, do you have capital? We're looking for capital. Or do you have deals? Because we're looking for deals. And by asking that question constantly, I have a number of agents calling me offering deals. I have a number of people reaching out and saying, hey, I got $1 million. Do you have anything I can do with it? And if it fits into our model, it fits into our model. But if it doesn't, then I refer them to someone else. We've had that conversation a couple of times with clients that you've sent my way, I've sent your way, and we've gone back and forth, or off-market deals. So I guess it really comes back to, again, the GPS. It comes back to the 135. And part of where I found my passion around Keller Williams was the opportunity that I didn't know what that was. That didn't exist until Keller Williams. And Keller Williams created what we have now is the GPS, the 135, as well as the 411, and that's your daily accountability around how you're going to reach your one goal. So that's a little insight as to where we're at. We have raised a bunch of capital. By the end of February, we'll actually be finished and refinanced 3 corporations. There'll be about 40 properties that'll be finished and refinanced by that point in time, and they'll be cash flowing. And we'll be able to start paying off some of the debt, and we're already transitioning. I have a meeting tomorrow on how we're going to be able to hit the $100 million next year in the 2 to 4 units. So we missed it in the 1 year, but we're looking to do it in the 2 year, which brings us back to that same conversation on you'll underestimate what you can accomplish in 5 and overestimate what you can accomplish in 1 year. So we underestimated the fact that there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done, and what a 1 year goal, if it's okay if it turns into a 2 year goal, because it's such a big goal. So $100 million in 2 years isn't something to cry about.
No, it's definitely not. Can we talk next a little bit about your schedule and how you manage all this? So I want to lay it out for everyone. So 80 plus properties purchased in 2019. You grew, I believe it's the largest KWYP chapter in the world. You grew a team with some pretty productive members on it, which I didn't even know existed until 2 months ago. Kind of came out of the blue. For a lot of people, what you've done in this past year would take a whole lifetime, and they'd be lucky if they could accomplish that in a lifetime. How do you jam all that in without going crazy? Because I know every time I see you, you're pretty cool, calm and collected. I've never seen you look stressed. How is that possible?
That's because you saw me after I missed my first couple closings. I had to become okay with it. Personally, I've developed and grown a lot this year, and it hasn't really come. I haven't noticed it until people say and speak about it. I mean, I totally forgot that I actually hosted a rent-to-own seminar. I think it was January 2019, and it was my first time in front of a room of 80 people from that time until you saw me at the Growth Summit, I was on stage co-hosting 600 or more people, and people felt like I looked like I was comfortable up there. Yes, I was shaking and I was nervous and didn't sleep the night before, although it was becoming comfortable in my own skin, becoming comfortable in my own body, and becoming confident. Going back to some of the points you mentioned, the 80 properties, I'll be totally honest, that's a lot of leverage. All I really do with that, I don't find the properties, I don't sign on the properties, I don't negotiate the deals. Robbie has multiple agents that do that for us. I kind of cast the vision, and I'm the one who qualifies and made the connections. I'm a networker, so I made the connections to the financing and our lawyer. And then I'm in the lawyer's office probably 3 days a week, and I have my AirPods in, and if I need to take a call, I'll sign papers with them and take the call at the same time. I do a lot of multitasking. I also really prioritize my time. One thing I need to improve on is white space, because you'll see that I was on a call when I got here, and that was a 12 to 1, and then here we are 1 to 2, and then again at 2 o'clock I'm going to call 2 to 3, and so it's back to back to back, and it's making sure that you're really leveraged and you're focusing on what's most important. So when I'm at the Growth Summit, I have my call forwarded to my EA, so that anyone that needs to get a hold of me can still get a hold of me, or at least my team, and make sure that everyone's set up and taken care of, and making sure that you make that very clear to those that you're surrounding yourself with and that you're working with, to say, it may not be me that calls you right away, but I will get back to you within 24 hours or less, is just, it builds that trust, and clients may want to have you negotiate the deal. I know a lot of clients are like, oh, I only want you to negotiate the deal. And absolutely, I'll negotiate the deal. Although, for me to be able to negotiate all those deals, I need to have boots on the ground that are finding them. So instead of doing my 20 previews a week, I have agents on the team that are in training that are going and looking at properties every day. So they go and look at 6 to 8 properties to preview every single day. They reach out to you and say, hey Mike, what off-market deals do you guys have at MRN that might work for our clients? So I do the initial consultation, and I kind of build out a plan for our investment clients, and then our investment clients will take that plan. I assign that to their team members on what their goals are and what the accomplishments are. They go out and find the deals, they bring them by me, and I look at those opportunities and I say, great, that would be a good one for Mike, or that would be a good one for Anna, and really kind of direct them where that needs to go. Getting to your comment on the largest YP chapter. So yes, we do have the largest YP chapter by agent count and by member count. However, there's a book that was recommended to me recently by a regional director, and he said it's very important, you gotta go listen to this. I put it on Audible at 2 times speed and listened to 5 hours straight. It's called Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and it differentiates the difference between an infinite game and a finite game. And we need to be leaders that are thinking infinite, and they specifically touch on the iPhone or the iPod, I can't remember which one it is, and to the Zune by Microsoft, and how the CEO at the time of Microsoft didn't concern themselves with the iPod because they were just going to put out this product and just go with it. But it was about being the best. It was about being number one. And their focus at Microsoft was on more sales than Apple. Whereas Apple's focus was on offering the most value they could and the best product they could. And as you're well aware, here we are in 2019, almost 2020, and over 50% of the population is currently using an iPhone. Obviously, Apple continues to offer value, otherwise people would not be still buying the iPhone. I mean, I remember back in the day, flip phones would change every 6 months, and the old one was 6 months in, you were gone. Now it's like iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, A, B, C, D, and now it's just what other iPhone features can we add to that to make that an infinite game. Another way that it was put to me is, when you think of sports, if I'm in hockey, I'm lining up again across from someone, and I have 60 minutes to make that guy's life miserable. And over that course of that 60 minutes, my job is to make his life miserable, stop him from putting the puck in my net, and put the puck in his net as much as I can with my team. And at the end of that 60 minutes, we're either going in overtime, assuming we're not going overtime, the game's over. So that's a finite time period, that's a finite game. As leaders, and as growing leaders and developing leaders, we need to look at everything we do as an infinite game. And how can we look at things on a larger scale? Bringing that all back to the YP conversation is, I had this conversation with my regional director. We were at 77 members at the time. The second largest YP chapter was at 49 members. And the thing that really became apparent to me is, we're not growing our chapter still to be the number one chapter. We're growing our chapter still because we know we can add more value to more people, and we can still develop more leaders. And that was our real big focus, on being the best we can be, as opposed to being the top and being number one. It's not about being number one, it's about being the best you can be.
That was good.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next?
Well, I think we need to go back to your schedule. We didn't really dive deep into that. So on a play-by-play, can you just tell us what your morning routine looks like? I know you're a big fan of the Miracle Morning. We do want to know kind of what your day looks like, if you could lay it out for us.
Absolutely, and I should have warned you at the beginning if I didn't off the air. You will have to bring me back to some of those questions because sometimes I'll go on tangents, so I do apologize. Although a mic drop moment will never hurt us. So my schedule, 4 a.m. became a real thing for me when I read The Miracle Morning. It was Chris Knighton actually that did his 4 a.m. for 66 days in a row, and he'd put a little video and talk about gratitude and talk about something, one of the savers really, in the gym or the importance of visualization, whatever it may be. And I watched that and watched his 66-day challenge unfold, and I watched what he did, and I didn't think it was a real thing. And then I read the book. I went online and read the book by Hal Elrod. Hal became my idol, and I looked at it and said, okay, I can do this. What I used to do is I used to get up at 8:50 for a 9 o'clock appointment, and I'd run, and I'd be 5 minutes late, and I would smell, and I would not brush my teeth, and it wasn't a good time. And part of developing myself and being the best version of me was to spend time on myself. And in the savers, he actually speaks about the 6 savers, which is silence or meditation, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which is also journaling. And what he did was he researched and all the top producers, all the top influencers in the world, Gandhi and people like that back in the day, they focused on one of those areas and did it really, really, really well. And Hal brought them all together and said, well, this is 6 areas of personal development that if you even spend 1 minute on every day, you read 2 pages of the book, you do as many sit-ups as you can. By the way, do as many sit-ups as you can in a minute, try and do as many push-ups as you can in a minute, and I bet you still got some of that minute left if you don't go to the gym or work out very much. And that was a huge eye-opener for me. It didn't have to be an hour at the gym. It didn't have to be an hour of reading. 1 minute a day could make a change if I did it every single day. And so I started waking up at 6, and then I started waking up at 5:30 and 5, and I finally got back to 4, and that was right after. It was at the same, that turning point. We keep coming back to Mega Camp 2018, and I started doing it in August of 2018. And then in January, I went away. I had some travel that I did. January, February tends to be my travel months, and so I ended up traveling quite a bit for a few months, and I fell off, and I didn't get to my full 66 days, and I didn't do my 4 a.m., and then after Mega Camp 2019, no, it was 2018, so maybe it's 2017, the first one. And what I did is I jumped back into doing my Miracle Morning, and that was when my world really changed. That was when I had the opportunity to lead KWIP, and that was when I had the opportunity to buy those investment properties. And I realized that spending some time in the morning doing breathing exercises, or visualizing where I wanted to go, or looking at my vision map, or planning out my day. So I journal every morning and every evening. Mornings much easier than evenings. And it really started to develop some patterns and some habits that were developing me more as a person. And so that was my morning. So from 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock, I pour into myself. That's my time to read, journal, visualize. Sometimes I catch up on emails while I try and keep myself off the computer. Go to the gym. I go to Orange Theory now because it's guided, either 5:30 or 6:45. And come 8:30, I'm ready to go. So from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock in the morning, that was my mentor and coaching time. So from 4 o'clock till 7, what I called it was pour into me. So that was me pouring into myself and developing myself as a person. From 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. was others pouring into me. So that was when I was doing my coaching, or I'd have my mentoring calls for the most part whenever I had a coach that wasn't on the West Coast. And then from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. I had already poured into myself. I already had others pour into me. I was full. I had my mask on in that airplane analogy. I was able to pour into others. And so then every day from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m., that was when I would pour into others. And that was through whatever the area may have been, whether it be KWIP or that being my investment portfolio, tenants, selling as an agent, coaching my team, developing those around me, whatever that may be. And because I put myself first and prioritized my mornings for me, it was never a 9 o'clock at night gym session that I was trying to squeeze in and then ruin my sleep. I poured into myself. I will say that came with some sacrifice. I cut drinking out recently, so it's actually over 3 weeks now that I haven't had a drink. And I mean, that's not to say that I'm alcoholic, although it's just that I know that I ruin my schedule. I stay up too late, I get socializing, my personality comes out and I want to socialize and stay out all night and be the last man standing. And then 4 o'clock that comes around and I'm still up. And then that doesn't help me at all anyway. So I just dialed that back. I'm obviously going to have the odd drink here and there, but I wanted to really prove to myself I can spend the month of December without drinking. And so here I am. And it also allowed me, I also had to give up hockey. So that was something else I had to do, because I used to play hockey Monday evenings. And if I went to do hockey, sometimes I wouldn't get to bed till 1 o'clock because of that. And so making sure that I committed to my 4 a.m. every day, there was sacrifices I had to make, and some people don't want to do those. Your miracle morning doesn't have to be at 4 a.m. It could be at 7 a.m. It could be at 10 a.m. It could be at noon. Although the most successful people do have the power of 5 a.m. or power of 4 a.m., whatever you want to call it, where they either go to bed at 4 or 5, or they wake up at 4 or 5. And what that does is the hours in the evening are hours that people aren't bugging you. So it's the outside of work hours. You don't have people that are calling you, cold calling you, asking if you want to sell your house at 4 a.m. That just doesn't happen. You don't have someone who's calling you at 3 a.m. in the morning to sell you, I don't know, phone services. So it's really dedicated time that you eliminate all distractions. And since my personality type is very social, if someone wants to say, hey, you want to come on a podcast in the middle of the day, I'm going to say yes. So I find a way to do that. And so this is really part of that 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is pouring into others, whereas the morning up until 9 a.m. is making sure that I'm right first. Does that answer your question on calendar?
Yeah, I think so. Close enough. I don't know where to go from here.
I guess
we
the
need
last
to
thing...
edit this. You've given us so much content. Like most of the questions we can't even ask you anyway.
The last thing I will say on calendar is I constantly, like in my Google Calendar, I have multiple tabs that I can turn on and off, and that's like my perfect week. So what would my perfect week look like? So my schedule from like my 4 to 7, what does that break down to? And so in my calendar right now, I have half-hour blocks on all those individual items. And so I create what my perfect week is, and I try and review that, or I intend to review that on a quarterly basis as well, just like I do the mentors, to see what is my perfect week. Obviously, KWIP is now in that, whereas if I'm a solo agent, KWIP is not a part of that. Leadership is not a part of that when I'm a solo agent looking to put food on the table. I want to make sure I hit my 24 transactions a year, or my 36 transactions a year, whatever the number may be. So really determining and building out a calendar that works for you and prioritizing what is your 20%. Right, really determining what your 20% activities are, because we know of the 80-20 principle, and making sure that you focus on the areas that are going to give you the highest return, which is your 20% activities.
Awesome, thanks. I actually do want to touch on something. I know you're obsessed with Tony Robbins, and I want you to talk a little bit about that and what you're excited for this year with your Tony Robbins membership.
Yeah, obsessed with Tony Robbins. I think that the reason I enjoy Tony Robbins is because of his energy. I'm also a big fan of John Maxwell, and John Maxwell is very calming, very soothing. I mean, I can listen to him all day long and gain massive insight. I've mentioned his name a couple of times. Simon Sinek, same thing. I listen to him pretty bit. Will Smith is someone else that I listen to. Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's a number of people that have a big impact and big influence on the way I act, the way I think, and the way I behave. However, Tony Robbins, when I'm in that room, when I feel that energy, that jumping, that smiling, everybody in that room is so happy and so full of energy that you can go up and give anyone a hug in that atmosphere, and they're welcoming and they love it. And even if they don't like hugs, all of a sudden they're now a hugger because you're in Tony Robbins and the energy in the atmosphere is so powerful and so strong. So what I'm looking forward to this year, I'm actually going through the Platinum Partner Program. So I'm going to Fiji in a couple of weeks. That'll be the first of his Platinum events. And that, I guess, kind of falls into my coaching and development. I'm putting aside about $200,000 this year for Tony Robbins, because it's not cheap to be a part of that. Although I get access to every event that he has. I get access to all of his audiobooks. I get access to all of his training. And I also get 3 additional platinum trips a year that I get to go to. And that's just part of the plats. There's 200 plats that are involved every year. And so I'll be going to Fiji for 2 weeks. We're going to stay a week ahead of time with my business partner, because we deserve it after a year of chaos. And so we're spending a week relaxing, and then I'll spend a week with Tony. And then actually I'm flying right from Fiji to Idaho. Sun Valley, Idaho is the first platinum trip. And every year he has the finance trip, January, February. So this one's coming up the first couple weeks of February. And I know last year was Ray Dalio. I don't know if they're going to bring him back this year, although he talks about the economy. They talk about the financing and where we're going with the world and what the different trends look like. So I'm really looking forward to that plat trip. When you watch the video online, the Platts are saying there's $10 to $15 million worth of value in just going there for 5 days. And that doesn't even include the networking and the contacts you make, just the differences and the changes. So you're learning from the finance individuals there. And I guess I'm really looking forward to Date with Destiny. That's about limiting beliefs, removing your limiting beliefs. And Business Mastery I've attended once, and I'm going to go to every Business Mastery this year because it's really determining what are those couple of action steps. It's really finding that GPS or that 135 in your business, but from a different perspective. So Tony's got a lot of really good insights and a lot of really powerful energy, and that just gets me amped up. I come back from that just like I do Family Reunion and Mega Camp, and I'm ready to go. So I'm looking forward to that monthly.
And I would say your average person probably doesn't have $200,000 to pour into coaching or into Tony Robbins programs. I asked you this question before. Which of the programs Tony Robbins has available would you recommend to someone that's not looking to spend $200,000?
You asked me that before, and I remember that conversation because it was in your office about 6 months ago. And my answer to you was, it wasn't just Tony Robbins. You asked what would be the best for coaching, what would be the best opportunity for you if you wanted to grow. And I asked what area of your life, like what area do you want to grow, what area do you want to develop? Because there's coaching programs. You can do Landmark if you want to become a more confident person, you want to feel better, you want to do more on your own and develop more as a person. You can go to Toronto for $800 and do that in Toronto. You don't have to worry about traveling, nothing like that. Landmark can develop you as well. Tony Robbins has something called Unleash the Power Within, which dabbles in a little bit of everything. And so realistically, it gives you a little bit of the Date with Destiny, it gives you a little bit of business mastery, a little bit of life and wealth, a little bit of healthy eating. So I think that would be a great start for you. It's also the cheapest one. I think they do buy one, get one free sometimes, but for a regular admission, I think it's $600 or $700. And they're all over the States. So I think they have one in New Jersey, you'll have one in LA and stuff like that. So I would say that Unleash the Power Within is a great introductory course. You get to walk on fire, so you actually do walk on hot coals. And you kind of roll your eyes, you guys both smile and go, okay, wait, you're going to walk on fire? Well, the event that I went to had 17,000 people, and I think 16,900 of them walked on fire. And when you first got to that room, more than half of them weren't ever going to think about walking on fire. But he gets you in a state, and that state basically makes it so you're invincible. And when you walk across the fire, you don't even feel it. So I would highly recommend Unleash the Power Within. It touches on a little bit of everything. You find out more about your health and your wealth, as well as some limiting beliefs, and you get to walk on fire. Last year I picked 3 big goals that I wanted to accomplish, and it was 100 real estate transactions as a team, which we fell a little short of in the 60s, was 100 KWIP members, which we're still going to hit, and was $100 million in real estate holdings. And I created a GPS and a 135 around each of those things, and they made it possible to get where I got. I didn't hit those goals, although they made it possible to get where I got, and it's one of those things where if you aim for the moon, if you end up in the stars, you're still doing well. So I was pretty happy with where we did accomplish. I wasn't as happy as I would have been if I hit those goals. So this year I had spent a couple days doing that. Our goal for real estate investing is to hit that 100 million in 2 to 4 unit properties. We are also adding on buildings. So I bought my first building, my first 32 unit building this past year. So I want to add on 100 million in buildings. We are looking to inspire the lives of 100 additional non-KW agents by giving them the opportunity to join KW through KWYP. And our team goal for Team Elevation is I want to empower all the agents on our team to create a 4th level business. So it's to hire their own assistant and to leverage themselves so that they can reach their goals. So that ultimately works out to 294 transactions with the current team we have, with a couple of new hires that we need to make. And I would like to get involved in 3 market centers. So I would like to have ownership in 3 market centers in Canada. So that would be, there's a couple that we're in talks of, potentially launching a market center or 2, and then asking a couple of the market centers that I am influential in or think I am, if I can, what their tasks would be for me to be able to buy a part of that market center. And so I'm looking at purchasing a couple of shares in a couple of market centers, and what that's going to come with is I'm going to have to basically recruit. I'm going to have to bring value to non-KW agents and change. I call it changing their lives, because we're not recruiting. I mean, when you really see the value of KW, then you're not telling someone they should join KW. You're basically giving them the opportunity to improve their life.
That's amazing. It sounds like you're in for an even bigger year next year than you had last year, which doesn't surprise me because you're Dylan Suitor. So one question Anna and I always ask people before we wrap things up is, who do you know that we need to know that you can help us get on this podcast? And think big, Dylan, please.
So, I mean, a couple names that come to mind that have been big thinkers that have influenced me, and Hal Elrod. I mean, like I said, I got his cell number in my phone. Diana Kokoska, she was a big influence for Keller Williams. There's a number of YP individuals that I could share their names as well from all over North America, and some of them that do really big things. So I guess if you want to kind of take it offline, I'm happy to share or make a couple introductions to individuals. I just want you to give me a description of what you're looking for in your next episodes, and I can pair you up with someone that would be a great, for instance, client party host. If you want to focus on client parties and building your business that way, or the one thing and different areas that way. Let me know what area you want, and I'm happy to connect you to them.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Dylan, for joining us today. I'm going to do this again on edit. Don't worry about that.
All right.
But yeah, if there's anything that you want to reach out to Dylan for, I know he's always open and available for teaching. I know he's also going to be traveling across Ontario next year and also Canada, teaching in different market centers. So we'll post the schedule for our YP events upcoming. And do you have anything else to add, Dylan?
No. You can get in touch with me through our office at 905-592-4220. You can email me at info@elevationrealty.ca, or you can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook under Dylan Suitor, and Instagram at Dylan Suitor Elevate.
Perfect. And you'll see Dylan at the Real Estate Growth Summit next year, October 26th and 27th. Thanks for joining us again for another awesome episode, Sales Beast.